This beef stew is cozy, classic comfort food. The beef is outrageously tender and so flavorful thanks to veggies, broth, wine, and herbs. You have got to give this a try.
We like our stew hearty and call for 2 cuts of meat, bone-in short ribs and beef chuck roast. I love short ribs in this stew. After cooking for 3 hours, the meat falls away from the bone and almost melts into the sauce. Beef chuck roast is classic for stew and transforms into fork tender perfection. Season the beef well with salt, then sear them on all sides in your Dutch oven. Everything happens in the Dutch oven for this recipe, so this is building flavor for our stew. You'll likely need to sear the beef in 2 batches. When they are browned on all sides, place them into a bowl and set aside. The beef is obviously the star of this stew, but I love the fresh flavor of the vegetables in this recipe. We need 1 onion chopped, 4 carrots peeled and sliced, and 1 large parsnip, which is similar to carrots but sweeter if you haven't had it before. Mince 3 garlic cloves, but divide it, placing 2/3 of the garlic into the bowl with the onions and carrots. We also use shiitake mushrooms in this stew recipe to enhance the beef's rich, meaty flavor. I've got 4 ounces and remove the stems before slicing the mushroom caps thin. Add the remaining garlic to the mushrooms. Now, searing the beef has rendered quite a bit of fat. I removed some of this, but you can keep it in the pot if you'd prefer to. You can always add some back if you do need it. Now toss in the onions, carrots, parsnips, and 2/3 of the garlic. Season with a pinch of salt, then cook, stirring them around the pan until they sweat. This takes about 5 minutes. We aren't cooking them all the way through, that happens later. Now for the sauce. Add 3 tablespoons of butter to the pan. Then when it's bubbling, stir in the mushrooms and remaining garlic. Cook for a minute or 2, then add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now scatter 5 tablespoons of flour into the pot. It might look dry, don't worry. Do your best to mix it into the butter and tomato paste. Now pour in 1/3 of a bottle of red wine. This is a dry French red wine. Check the recipe for more suggestions. Stir to remove as many lumps as possible, then add the rest of the bottle. If you have any lumps left, they will cook out eventually. Now let this simmer and reduce. We want it to be reduced by half. Pour in 6 cups of beef stock, add 2 bay leaves, and then carefully place the browned beef back into the pot. Bring this all to a simmer, then cover and place into a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Cook for 2 hours, stirring once after an hour. Stirring just makes sure that the short ribs are flipped in the sauce. Just as our 2 hours are coming to a close, peel and chop 4 medium potatoes. I love Yukon Gold for this recipe. Now slide the reserved vegetables and potatoes into the stew. Place a bunch of thyme right on top. Cover with a lid and cook for 30 minutes or until the beef is fork tender and the veggies are cooked through. I wish you could smell this. Let's remove the thyme sprigs and any fat pulled at the top. There's usually a lot of fat, so don't let that scare you. It's easy to remove with a spoon. Give the stew a taste, then season with salt as needed. Now you can serve in larger chunks like this or shred the beef to make it go further in the stew. Both options are great. Look at that. The beef is outrageously tender. It practically falls apart at the sight of the fork. With melt-in-your-mouth beef, perfectly tender vegetables, and a rich and flavorful sauce, this Dutch oven beef stew has become a family favorite. See you next time!